Hey good people, welcome to Melanated Vibrations, a new show that celebrates the diversity and richness of Black culture. Join us as we delve into our individual mental health and overall mental health of our community. From the latest trends to the timeless coping mechanisms, we'll showcase the best of what it means to be mentally healthy. So sit back, relax, and get ready to feel the vibrations of Black excellence. Let's get started. Happy Monday. Good evening, everyone. Welcome to Melanated Vibrations. It's your girl, Dom. We are on our 4th episode and the last Monday of Black History Month. So you know this show is going to be big. Thank you, everyone, for joining. As always, we are going to start with a grounding technique between the hustle and bustle of today, coming fresh off the weekend, all of the things that we had to do. I especially need this grounding technique. Again, the grounding technique is so that we are all not just physically present, but we are mentally and emotionally present in this moment. So I want to just do a simple breathing technique, something that we've done before, where we are going to do it 3 times, inhaling, holding, and then releasing. If you are able to do it safely, we are, of course, going to be seated in our chairs or couch or wherever you're seated, and we are going to make sure that our feet are planted on the ground. Remember, everything that starts with a grounding technique starts with our feet on the ground. We are going to take our palms and we're going to turn them up and rest them on our legs, or if you have an arm of a chair, like I do myself, you can rest your arms there. We're going to start by wiggling our toes, just feeling our toes and our socks. If we have socks on, or if we don't, we're barefoot. That's okay too. Whatever's underneath of you. If you have carpet or flooring or whatever, you're going to start with your toes. You're going to work your way up your legs. You're going to feel your legs moving. You're going to move your legs, maybe swing them, get some blood flow, some circulation happening for you. And then we're going to keep our feet still. We're then going to work our way up. We're going to take those hands that we have, and we're just going to do this gently with our fingers, get the blood flowing. And now we are going to take our hands and we're going to rest our hands back where they were, whether that is the armrest or that is your legs. We are going to breathe in, hold, and out 3 times, but I'm going to count to 4 each time. So you can close your eyes for this exercise or you can leave them open, whatever you're comfortable with. But we're going to breathe in, hold for 4 seconds, then release for 4 seconds. So let's breathe in. 1, 2, 3, 4, and hold. 1, 2, 3, 4, and release. 1, 2, 3, 4. Breathe in. 1, 2, 3, 4, and hold. 1, 2, 3, 4, and release. 1, 2, 3, 4. Last time, breathe in. 1, 2, 3, 4, and hold. 1, 2, 3, 4, and release. 1, 2, 3, 4. If you close your eyes, you now can open your eyes and let us just ground ourselves in the moment. So let's set our intention for this evening. My intention for this evening, I'm setting my intention as I am bringing into this space feeling a little overwhelmed. Today has been a day, but I'm here with you guys and I'm super excited about my special guest. And so, yes, even in the midst of me being overwhelmed, I am making sure that I am not just physically, but mentally and emotionally present for you guys today. So, since it is the last Monday of Black History Month, but we can celebrate us all year round, I want to shed light on um, an athlete who I actually recently found out about and did not realize after looking at the pictures, like, no way, this is the same person. So, my person for this evening, for all of my sports fans out there, is Delonte West. So if any of you know about Delonte West, his story, how he, has been diagnosed, how he started, you can even see in this picture of like the age, how he aged because of his diagnosis and, being homeless and drugs and all of those things. So I just want to read a little bit about Delonte West. So Delonte West, a former college basketball third team All-American who was the 24th overall pick by the Boston Celtics in the 2004 NBA draft. West played 8 seasons in the NBA alongside names like Paul Pierce, with his final stint at the point guard position for the Dallas Mavericks in 2012. He says, basketball, for some, it is just something to do. But for me, it was a lifestyle. Growing up in the DMV, District of Columbia, Maryland, Virginia region, West told ABC News in April in a rare interview. Though West shined on the courts, he suffered in silence. Despite clutch jump shots and game-winning alley-oops, West was struggling mentally under the pressure to succeed. And any game time highs were paired with personal lows. Starting in 2013, West was acquired by the Texas Legends, part of the minor league, NBA D League, now known as the G League. He played with the team for the better part of the year before signing a one-year deal with the Fujian Sturgeons and the Chinese Basketball Association. From there, he bounced around the international scene, heading back to Texas in 2015, before ultimately being waived in April that year. Despite the constant back and forth, he said the game kept him going. Living a life of mental illness, they call it. I like to say mental superpowers, as West says. Basketball was always my escape. West was diagnosed with bipolar disorder in 2008. For those that don't know, bipolar disorder is a mental disorder that causes unusual shifts in mood, energy, activity levels, concentration, and the ability to carry out day-to-day tasks. An estimate of 2.3 million Americans have bipolar disorder, and it affects people of all races. According to the 2018 research available on the National Institute of Health website, people of African ancestry with bipolar disorder, either type 1 or 2, have higher rates of misdiagnosis in comparison to people of non-African ancestry with bipolar disorder. He says, it's definitely been a spiritual journey, dealing with being bipolar, said West. A missed shot or a lost game, it can turn into a spiraling, snowballing depression type of thing where, to where it takes me hours, or it took me hours just to leave the gym. West sought counseling and began taking medication, but said that the struggles between maintaining peace, calming his racing mind, and unleashing fury on the court were too tough to manage. In 2012, the Mavericks suspended West twice, once for a reported locker room outburst, and again for what the team's president of operations, Don Nelson, called conduct detrimental to the team. A series of off-court incidents accelerated his eventual exit from the game. A photo of West seen panhandling in Temple Hills, Maryland, went viral in 2016, leaving fans concerned. The West told the site Media Takeout he had been helping an unhoused man in his neighborhood at the time, and he was not homeless, as some thought. So I kind of want to go to the comments, and for those that know about Wes, I always kind of have this thing with players and athletes. I always feel like they do suffer in silence because they are just supposed to shut up and dribble or shut up and throw or just make that touchdown or just make those 3-pointers. Um, and I think a lot of the time that pressure, like I always used to say, like, okay, so win or lose, but let's say lose, right? You lose a game, and how as a player with all these fans watching the game, when do you have time to process that loss? And I get the mindset of, it's like, we paying you all these millions of dollars, like, you process that stuff on your own time. But just imagine, game after game after game, you lose this one, you win this one. I'm a fan. I understand how being a fan is. We get very, very aggressive, and we ready to off with their heads when they lose games. But then we're like their biggest fans when they win the games. And so someone who unfortunately is suffering from a mood disorder already, and then on top of that, having to deal with the crowd of, like, oh, you missed all of these, free throws or whatever you missed all of it. And now I have to get in front of cameras and do a press conference and tell y'all that I played a bad game. It was one of the worst games I ever played, but I still haven't had a time to process that. And it seems like, unfortunately, with Delonte West, him being at the peak of his career, unfortunately, him having a mental illness, him being homeless, him being addicted to drugs, like that picture, like I was so surprised looking at the pictures, like, here's this nice looking, youthful young man to, oh my God, it looked like it sucked the life out of him. And I was very surprised, like, it's no way these are the same people. And it was. So I kind of want to know in the comments from you guys that have followed the story, that know about Delonte West, what do you think? Him having a mental illness and still having to play, having to show up. I get it's a part of the game, but I think, again, in our community, it's not talked about enough. We don't really get a pass to have mental illness. It's just like, again, shut up and dribble. So we can go to the comments. I just want to know kind of what you guys think about it. Should players have more counseling? Like, should that be something that's mandatory for them when they're playing these games where it's so much pressure on them? I say yes, but to the sports fans out there, what do you guys think? Do they deserve counseling, or are they making enough money they got to do that on their own time? So hey, Tiff. Hey, bro. That picture is sending me. Hi, big exclusive. Hey, Tyreka. Hey, girl. Hey, Creamy. Yeah, I think that's important. Yeah, they definitely should have some type of counseling. Right. Millions of dollars that they've never had before, and there is a huge expectation. Partying, drinking. I saw the way players reacted to rather it be injuries or everyday life. They need therapists. It is mentally taxing. I agree. Hey, Hannibal. It is. And so you have all this pressure on you with all of this money coming fresh from high school. Hey. And so you get drafted, you get picked, you get more money than you can ever dream of. And I don't know about y'all, but I ain't never had millions of dollars. And so they get this money, they're out, they're partying, they're living the life. but then it's all just temporary relief. Again, a lot of people, especially people of African descent, are misdiagnosed at a higher rate with things like bipolar 1 and 2. Misdiagnosed, underdiagnosed. So stress on them and a standard for them to live up to. Absolutely. We hold them to such a high standard. And I blame some of that as fans, right? Like some of that is on us as fans. Some of that is the team. When you have players that are really, 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 really good, we hold them to a higher standard, not realizing like they're regular people too. They suffer from mental illnesses. And a part of them may feel weak to even talk about it. Happy face, be mindful of what you say and do. Absolutely. It is exhausting. All of that, put on a happy face, just go out there and put on your best poker face. That is a lot to do each and every week that you are playing, and you never get a chance to deal with what it is that you need to deal with. It's a lot. It is exhausting trying to put on a face of being happy when you're not feeling it, when you don't like it, when it's not what it's supposed to be. And so I think it should be mandatory that some form of counseling is had for each player, because you literally have the weight of like the world on you, because the expectation is so high. Like you just need to get it done. We need to win games. This is about rings and championships. And it's like, but what about the person that's doing it? If there's no more comments, I believe my guest is here. I would like to bring in my guest. His name is Leroy Ambrose. He is my mentor, my current supervisor, licensed clinician. He's been in the field for so many years, so many years. He has a practice called Innovative Community Therapeutic Services. He was originally in Morton, and now we are located in Media. He's going to come on. We are actually going to, he's going to talk. So this is going to be one of those shows where I'm going to be a student. And he is going to talk about his experience with marriage and family therapy and kind of just mental health overall and in general. So if he is back there, you can bring him out. Hey, Leroy.
Hello. Something just happened to the microphone, so I'm not sure. It's muffled on my end.
You can't hear me?
I can hear you, but it's kind of muffled. I don't know.
You sound clear to me. I don't know. Can people in the comments hear? I don't know.
Well, let's just go with it. But okay. just speaking a little bit about Delonte West, or just other NBA or professional athletes, it's hard to seek counseling because what happens is then you're labeled. Mm-hmm. And it may be difficult to then get signed with another team. Again, these are multi-million and billion-dollar industries that people are always looking and scrutinizing a person's background and the things that they do. And if they seek out counseling for something, that then gets sent directly to the league and then over to the owners. And so then that may be something that a person is scrutinized. I remember being a collegiate athlete, and your scholarship is always thrown up. You're not performing, you're out of here. I'll send your ass back home. You'll be back sitting next to your mother, all kinds of things. So just imagine on a professional level, and it's day in and day out that you're in another city or somewhere else. And not only can't you process the loss or wins, but you're also trying to process being a caretaker of your entire family now. Mm-hmm. Where you was once a child not so long ago, and now you are the sole provider of everyone, not just your household, but other family members' households and everything. And so it really takes a toll on the average athlete, overall. There was this one incident a couple of weeks ago with the University of Alabama, where the basketball player got into a disagreement with a young lady on campus or near campus, and he ended up killing her. I'm not sure all the different particulars, but again, whatever pressure, whatever thinking errors, whatever mental health issues that person may have been going through is now, in that moment, a blink of the eye of something bad happening. And so, mental health can occur at any time, and you don't necessarily have to be bipolar. Just going through something in that moment that may take you over the edge. Being an athlete, no matter what level, is a lot of pressure. And a lot of people aren't able to deal with that pressure in a healthy way. So,
Mhm. Yeah.
unfortunately, Delonte is one of the extremes. But there's others who's not as extreme as him that
Mhm.
is going through some things or have went through some things, in the
Mhm.
past.
Mhm. And I think that's a good point that you two good points that you made. Like the moment that I say I need help or I need therapy, now I'm labeled. And
Hmm.
so now I have this label I have to walk around with, and now teams don't want to trade or take me on. And this is my bag. Like, this is, again, like you said, to the second point, how you take care of your family, not just your immediate family, but mom and cousin and dad and all these people that come out the woodworks that, financially you're responsible for. They kind of go hand in hand. So if I speak up about it, then I'm labeled. I'm labeled. I possibly may lose my contract. Nobody wants me, and now we're here. So even that causes, some level of stress for them. It shouldn't be like that. I think mental health should be incorporated in almost every career and every facet. But again, it's that whole like shut up and dribble. We don't really care what's going on up here for you. Just you got a job to do. You signed this contract. That's all we need you to do is fulfill it. So it is a lot. So Leroy, tell us about yourself. What would you like the people to know? How long you've been in the industry? Your specialty? What? Tell us what you want us to know about you.
Wow, I've been around in the field since 2000. I'm old. I've been licensed since 2015, and that's when I started the private practice. Uh, I work with every population from sex offenders to people just with common, issues that may need someone to talk to, and everything and everyone in between. Um, I've been trained in trauma, sexual dysfunction, sexual deviant behaviors, relationship counseling, grief counseling, and now I'm working on different certifications with juveniles who are uh, being substance abusers or substance use adolescents who have been, facing some adjudication. So that's the next certification that I'm actually working on. Um, I just noticed that mental health has really been pushed to the forefront ever since COVID.
Mm-hmm.
Since the start of COVID, as you know, most mental health facilities have been overwhelmed with people from all walks of life. Again, traditionally, there's usually a way to get into services and get support. But right now, there's wait lists everywhere because everyone, for whatever reason, due to COVID and the lockdown and being closer to people and or dealing with some health issues due to COVID and other things, really felt the need to be able to be supported emotionally and mentally. And so we've been overwhelmed over the last couple of years. So that's me in a nutshell. Guess any other questions you may have, feel free. But
Um.
I think it's important that we do this in the African American community because what we do know is there's two populations who are very rare to seek therapy, and that is the Asian male
Mhm.
and the black male.
Mhm.
And so within that, a lot of our black men or men of color tend to suffer in silence.
Mhm.
And we have the most stressors that any other subset or group of people may have to deal with on a daily basis. And so within that, we're not seeking services, and it may lead to substance use,
Mhm.
the dysfunctioning of the home, a person just shutting down or running away as the parasympathetic reflexes take over, and or just maladaptive behavior. So I think what you're doing, this platform is a great way to kind of bring out or talk about mental health issues that may lead someone or a group of people to seek professional help. So kudos to you.
Thank you. So for the people that don't know the basics of marriage and family therapy, could you kind of just tell us what it is, kind of what you do, and why is that like your modality? Like why that population?
Well, marriage and family therapy is the concentration of the family. Marriage is just the spouses, and then you add the family, which would be the siblings, children, or other extended family members that may be a part of the unit. But looking at marriage counseling, um, a lot of times within the African American community, we have a lack of trust, and it kind of transfers over to our relationships. And a lot of times, as African Americans or people of color, we really don't know how to properly love each other because we don't know how to love ourselves. And so we see that breakdown or that disconnection within relationships based on not getting the emotional support or not understanding really what love is. And so through counseling, we try to break down the understanding of how someone needs and or wants to be loved, the need for bargaining and compromising, and the need to be vulnerable to each other. And that's important because when you're able to be vulnerable, you're then able to let down your guard. And when you're able to let down your guard, excuse me, you are allowing other people in to be able to support you, to love you, to nurture you in a way that allows you to feel loved.
Good answer. Do you recommend therapy before marriage? Or do you think it's something I need to do it afterwards? Or when would you say a couple needs to get to someone that specializes in marriage and family therapy?
I think definitely, well, understand this, that the first time marriage couples, there's a 52% divorce rate. That means for people who are marrying for the first time, more than half of the couples are breaking up. And so I really highly recommend that people get counseling before marriage, just to understand what the other person needs, wants, and expects. A lot of times people say, well, things shouldn't change when you're married, but they really do. The expectations change, the way you build changes, the understanding of building wealth as a family changes when you're single and dating to being married. And then understanding expectations, because when someone's dating or engaged, they may not have a lot of expectations for the individual. But then when you get married, again, your baggage is now theirs. And so there has to be an understanding. There has to be boundaries and limits set, and they have to learn to let go, especially when it's involving children that's outside of the marriage. That becomes big. And so I suggest people get premarital counseling to kind of understand expectations, to be able to go forward. One of the biggest reasons, two of the biggest reasons for divorce, of course, we know one is financial, but the other is not being a spouse not feeling emotionally supported by their spouse. And so there's usually a disconnect there. And I think if there's more people getting premarital counseling, there'll be a understanding and a connection between the two that will allow them to go forward and be successful.
In your experience, what is the success rate of like saving marriages? So say I get engaged, but we're not doing no premarital counseling. But then things arise in the marriage within the first year. And we all right, maybe we should go to counseling. In your experience, what is the success of how many people are willing to compromise after the I do's?
So in my experience, and I've been doing relationship counseling for 5 years now, going on 6, my experience that people reach out for relationship counseling after one person has already checked out. And so they're already gone. And so a lot of times they're really just going through the emotions because physically, emotionally, they have checked out. And one person is reaching out for services as a way of saving the marriage. But, a lot of times that person is no longer interested in saving or reconnecting. And so it's hard to kind of create a mediation or understanding because that person is ready to go. They're just there just to say they did it before, they exit stage left. But there are some people who actually come to therapy because they've been invested in therapy in the past and they've seen the benefits that it has done with them, and they're wanting it to be, a success within their relationship. And so both parties have to be willing to listen, to change, and to nurture each other in a way that allows for both parties to feel secure to go forward in the relationship.
Okay. And so what techniques would you as the therapist use to get them to come to that understanding?
Well, the first thing is to kind of hear both of their stories, because a lot of times they're saying the same thing, but it's coming from a different perspective. So I want to make sure that I'm hearing them clearly, and so that I'm able to validate their needs when I'm reaching out to their partner. And then I always try to, within 2 or 3 sessions, bring in the brain teaser, a fun activity to kind of see the understanding of what the other person needs and how they see things. Because most couples are not going to see things the same way. And so it's hard to be on the same page when your perspective is totally different. And understanding that if people come from different homes, different environments, different communities, and have different backgrounds, they're not going to always see things the way the other person sees it. And so when we're able to break the ice with that and kind of understand what compromise look like, we can then go forward and setting new boundaries and doing some things to hold each other accountable so that both parties feel love. And I give them my definition of what love is. I need to coin it or phrase it, but my definition is a little different than Webster's. But it's when your wants and needs are no longer important, but the wants and needs of your partner is paramount. It means that you're at your very best when your partner is not at their best. And so what that means is that there's going to be ups and downs in every relationship. Because someone goes through a struggle does not mean you should change the way you love that person. No matter how bad it gets, you have to continuously love them the way you love them starting out, right? Just like our children. When our children do something wrong, we don't get rid of them.
Right.
we nurture them. We love them continuously, unconditionally. We nurture them back, get them to understand where they went wrong and what they need to do to get better, but we don't get rid of them. And so we need to practice the same thing with our children, that unconditional love with our partners. Also, often the person does something bad or does something wrong, and the person is ready to run. But we have to understand what love is and that unconditional part to where we can nurture them and get them back to where we need them to be by having that unconditional love. But no one should be a fool. If it continuously happens, you have to then reevaluate yourself, because the thing is, you don't want to lose yourself in a relationship.
Right.
You don't want to lose your identity. And at some point in time, you have to love yourself more. And that may mean leaving the relationship if your love isn't enough for the individual.
Okay. Somebody put in the comments, I want to say it was Phoenix. He said that the 2 reasons people, I guess, is infidelity and financial. In your experience, when it comes to infidelity, how do you combat that in therapy as a therapist? There's a lot of anger, there's a lot of emotion, there's a lot of it's a lot happening. And so when it comes to infidelity, we'll stick with infidelity and then we'll get to the financial part. But infidelity, in your experience as a therapist, what do you do with that?
my experience with infidelity, no one leaves because of infidelity. Um, and a lot of times the infidelity, not all, but a lot of the time, we never deal with absolutes, but a lot of times the infidelity is on the male's part that I've experienced. And rarely do the couple break up because of infidelity. You know, it sounds good and it's a great talking point for social media and to your friends. If that person cheated on me, I'm out, I'm gone. But the reality is it doesn't happen as much as we think. And so what we do is work through that. And with the Black male, I try to do some one-on-one sessions because I don't want to discuss all of the issues in front of the spouse because I don't want to re-trigger her. That's one. And two, I want to understand the emotional developmental level of that man. Sometimes I'm not going to say the man, a person isn't as mature based on their chronological age as they should be. And it could be due to trauma. It could be due to some other issues that may have taken place to kind of understand some of the impulsive behaviors that may have led to some of the infidelity. Because a lot of the times, and again, not all, but a lot of the time, the infidelity is based off of lust and lack of impulse control, as opposed to not feeling loved at home. And so we want to walk through that and understand that. As I use myself a lot, and the number one thing of growing up is, excuse my language, and whatever. So try to bag as many women as you can. And because you can doesn't mean you should. And it doesn't mean that there aren't any repercussions to that behavior. And so we have to examine the developmental stage of that person. And once I've done that, I'm able to reestablish them, to get them back together and understand how a person really needs to be loved and what love looks like and how it shows up in time of stress, in time of thinking errors, and things of that nature. And so we kind of start there. The other thing that he said was what again? I'm so sorry.
Financial.
Financial is big. And I've seen this so many times, is that there's one person that's usually better with money than the other. And because one person struggles, it may cause a lifestyle change within the marriage, within the relationship. And that is a hard thing to take, that you work hard to establish a certain lifestyle. And because of a person's poor judgments and decisions with money, causes that lifestyle to abruptly change. And it may not only just be for that person, it may be for the children that may be involved as well. And so, that one is hard to handle. I was recently dealing with a couple that, for whatever reason, the gentleman had 2 children outside of their marriage. And the child's mother took him to court for child support. And not only did they count his wages, they counted her wages as well. And it calls for his child support to go up astronomically. And she was like, whoa, now I'm suffering and paying for your children, which has nothing to do with me. To the fact that they even had to change their tax status of filing separately as a way of keeping her from not losing her tax return, which is a big thing for a lot of people. And so financially, it does place a major strain on the marriage when one person is not as financially responsible as the other.
Can we put the comment back on the second comment Phoenix said? I guess you can answer this, Leroy. It says, love is merely a chemical reaction of the brain. Someone please tell me a benefit of Black men getting married these days. I don't even think it's just for Black men. I know for myself, I look at like marriages around me. Like I look at my parents' marriage. They were together for 18 years. I look at like my close friends. I have two best friends that are married. And in my mind, like I still want to get married. Like I think every marriage is different. But I think that is a big struggle within the Black community is like, what's the point of even getting married? So maybe that's something you could answer. That's not for me.
So I'm still struggling to hear you, but I think I heard it. So one of the benefits of being married is that married couples live longer. And so when you look at it, that when you're married, you take less risk that you would when you're single. I remember when I was young, I used to ride motorcycles. And I was very reckless in that pursuit of riding until I got into a motorcycle accident. And my significant other said, hey, we have a child. And if you're going to be in this relationship, you're not going to ride bikes anymore. And not wanting to lose what I had, I gave up riding motorcycles. And so when you're single, your behaviors or actions may be a little more reckless than when you're married, because you're not only thinking about yourself when you're married, you're thinking about the entire family. Marriage also creates generational wealth. There is something called life insurance that it prepares the family for when you meet your demise. One of the things I can tell you that we're all going to die. And when you're married, your benefits go to your spouse. And so what it does, it creates generational wealth, over the course of the generations that come after. And so people who tend to be married tend to have children who are healthier. And they then create standards for their children to go forward, right? And so when we're looking at the benefits, there's some just off the bat that's there. If you don't want to live long, stay single. If you don't want to improve your wealth and financial status, stay single. If you don't care to leave your benefits to someone after you die, stay single. But if you think that's important, then you would get married. There's an old African proverb. If you want to go somewhere fast, go alone. If you want to go somewhere far, go with someone else. And so what better way to go far is with someone that you love?
I agree. Big Exclusive says, I can't wait to be married, but not for those reasons. I have my own. Absolutely. Everyone has their reasons for wanting to be married. I know Jolene had a comment about some people being in love. Yep. Some people are more in love with the institution rather than the partner. I think people get married sometimes for the wrong reasons. I think some people, especially this generation, I think people get married with the idea of marriage, but they don't get married to actually be in the marriage. Like you said, things change. That I'm still trying to wrap my head around, right? Okay, we were together for all these years and then we got engaged. Why did things have to change? In my mind, things just shouldn't change, but I do understand that in marriage, things are going to change. But I do think it is a thing where some people get married just to say that they're married, not really to be in the marriage and go through the thick and thin and those vows that they take to death do us part and sickness and health and richer or poor. I don't think people take those vows serious. And it's not even just the vows to the other person. You're taking those vows to God. And I think, again, this generation is just excited about the idea of being able to be like my husband, my husband, my wife. Like, I think people just like the name of it. I don't think people are really getting married to be married or stay married. So I don't know. All right. So pros and cons of doing marriage therapy. What is your pros to doing it, and what's your cons of being a therapist doing it?
Of doing marriage and family therapy.
Yeah.
The pros is to be able to see Black love at its best when it ends. To understand that there are still people who are willing to risk it all for love, and that's a beautiful thing. The cons is that sometimes people expect too much of us. You know, wave your magic wand and make us be happily married after. And unfortunately, it doesn't work that way. And so when things don't go well, you know, they sometimes blame us. I got broad shoulders. I don't mind it, you know, but a lot of times they want us to fix things in 1 or 2 sessions. And then, you know, by session 3, they're like, well, I don't think this is working.
Right.
And a lot of times I'm saying that, you know what, you didn't get where you are in 3 weeks.
Right.
So don't think that you're going to fix everything in 2 to 3 weeks. Right. But unfortunately, they have that idea of, we're going to do some mind trick or Jedi mind trick and have them walk out the doors happily ever after. And sometimes, you know, well, all the time, that is not it. We only give the tools. It's up to the people to use the tools in order to get better. A lot of times, some of the cons is that, I'm just being honest, I'm laughing on the inside, be like, wow. And you're trying to remain professional.
Right.
And it's hard. And so that is a con, because you want to stay in that professional realm, but you want to be like, you believe that bullshit? Like, you want, that's it, right. Hey. You know, and so the con is that we have to stay in that professional role. And a lot of times we can't call out the bullshit, the obvious that we see. And so if we do, especially as a person of color, we're then labeled as something different, you know. Right. And so, you know, I think that's the biggest con, because a lot of times, you know, the person, especially the men, is like, yo, man, that's bro code. You're supposed to be on my side. And I'm like, no, I'm not on anyone's side. Right. I'm a neutral person. And so that's some of the cons that's there.
Yeah. I think that's a lot with, like, especially when you're a Black therapist. I'm going to get right to that question, Gab. I think being a Black therapist and having Black clients is like, it's an expectation. Like, we just gonna go with the flow. And it's like, no, we are a neutral party. We are just here to give you the tools that you need for whatever your situation is. And I think, like, again, there's a shortage in us. There's a shortage of licensed Black therapists. There's a shortage of just Black therapists in general. And it's just like, we can't go with the bro code or the cis code. Like, we just gotta be neutral. Not really tell you, like, you got dumb written on your forehead. Like, I can't say that to you. I can't, but I want to. But, you know.
But and the add-on to that, when we, as minority therapists, we work with people outside of our race, you know, and I'm just going to be honest, when I know that I'm meeting with a person of a different race, I'm not going to wear my Timberlands that day. Right. I'm going to wear khakis and a button-up or a polo shirt because they look at us in a certain way already. You know, and a lot of times they doubt our qualifications. And so not only do we have to look the part, we have to go above and beyond what their traditional white female therapists may have to go through. And then as a, working with our Black clientele,
Mm-hmm.
you want to be careful because then they want to build a bond or a rapport that sometimes becomes unethical, that changes the boundaries. And,
Mm-hmm.
hey, can you cover up for me? Can you, say this or
Mm-hmm.
that? And, the expectations now, because we look alike,
Mm-hmm.
I'm going to always, agree with what you're saying. And so as a minority therapist, we always have to walk a fine line on both sides.
Agree. It'd be tough, but you're absolutely right. Like, we are going to present differently with our non-melanated clients versus our melanated clients, but the standard kind of has to be the same. Like, I remember going to the doctors and checking in. Like, the receptionist was like, I don't even know how we got into talking about therapy, but she was like, yeah, I went to therapy before. She was like, and I had a young therapist, and it wasn't nothing that she could tell me. I was old enough to be her mother, and I'm sitting here like, is this what people think of me when they see me? Like, I'm young and I'm Black, and it's like I haven't lived long enough to give you coping skills and techniques. And in that moment, I felt so small because I'm like, oh my God, like, I'm going to have clients that are going to be older than me, and they are going to shoot me down before I even get a chance to open my mouth and let y'all know, like, I have the education, I have the experience. Like, these are the people that I've worked with. But then once you find those other people that are like, I don't care about how old you look, I don't care about your skin color, I don't care about none of that. Like, can you help me? Like, that's where we are. Can we go back to Gab's question? I do want to answer that. Gabrielle Howard, or Gab Howard. When having marriage counseling, our therapist didn't discuss finances or money. Is that common? And if so, why?
Could you repeat that one?
So she said, when having marriage counseling, our therapist didn't discuss finances or money. Is this common? If so, why?
Um, it can be common. I allowed for the client to lead the therapy. If they think it's a need, then we will address it. If they don't think it's a need, then we will leave it alone. And so I'm there for them, and I'm going to meet them where they are. If their issue is financial, then we're going to definitely address it. If it's some other issues, we will address the other issues. And so I allow them to kind of lead and dictate what goes on in therapy.
Okay. It was a comment after that, big exclusive. I don't know if it was your comment or it was a comment right after. Okay. What are some of the more craziest stories or sessions you've had, Leroy? Confidential.
Well, I mean, being in the field forever, I've actually seen everything, but I had a situation where there was a person and they were addicted to drugs, and they were sent to a residential treatment facility to address that. The mother felt guilty, and she pulled her son out AMA. And they came in and said, we need an emergency session. That wasn't the right place. I had an hour and a half session with them. And I said, you have to go back. If you don't, you're going to die. And they was like, no, I'm going to get the medication and I'm good and I'm this, that, or the other. And unfortunately, 2 days later, he overdosed and died in the park, in one of the parks in Prospect Park. And his friends left him. Instead of calling the 911 or whatever, they just ran. So where maybe he got immediate medical attention with the Narcan, he may have been saved. And so having that session with the mother after, it was crazy for me because I was able to see the death. And now that mother is crying and grieving, and I'm trying to support her as much as I can. And I'm like, man, could I have done something more? Could I have forced them to go back And so a lot of times after that, and I had to do some supervision with someone after that of seeing, someone sitting with me, not healthy, but there in the flesh, to then being invited to the funeral, all within a week's time. And so that played in my head for a while. But I think the craziest,
I'm cracking up. Yes, on a more positive note.
That was one that stayed with me. But one of the craziest ones was I did a relationship counseling session, first session, with this couple, and I guess the female felt very comfortable in airing their business, not knowing there was a PFA. Oh, wow. And he punched her right in the face. And it was in our old office. The table broke, the door broke, the door still broke, the table still broke. We no longer have that because we moved. Right. But, she ran literally, as you know, Dominique, we had the sliding barn doors. Mm-hmm. She literally ran through the door. The door went flying. Blood was everywhere. And he went chasing after her. And I instinctually grabbed her. Yeah. And I'm a bigger guy. And so I'm like, bro, you're not getting away. But right. I mean, the police came. He left in handcuffs. They never disclosed there was a PFA. But that probably was the craziest. That first situation was the craziest because of being scary of the death there. But of things happening, that was the other side of the crazy, that they literally had a fist fight in the office.
You just never know what you're walking into, right?
Never know.
There you have it. The life of being a therapist. This is what we go through. Goodness. Yeah. So when y'all wondering why the waiting list is so long, because we got clients like this that won't let go. The wait lists are long. Are you taking clients, Leroy?
I have very limited space. Okay. That would be like early mornings. They're the hours that can't really be filled, as there's no one available at 9 a.m. But that's really literally the only time slots that I have is like two 9 a.m.s and one 10 a.m. If someone's able to fit that, they're more than welcome. But other than that, as you know, Dominique, we are
filled to capacity.
Yeah, it's unfortunate.
So if anyone is looking for a Black male therapist, those are your times. That's Leroy's availability. You can DM me. You guys have my Instagram information. For those that have my phone number, please feel free to text me. I will pass this information along. Let's end on a more positive note, Leroy. Is there anything you would like to say to the audience, just in general? Any positive words, any affirmations, anything you would like to leave the people with this afternoon, or this evening, should I say?
Well, I would say that, in the positive, that we all have to start living. We all exist, and that we have to really start focusing on our purpose. And when you're able to do that, you get the best out of yourself. You get the best out of everyone around you. And what I get a lot of times from people coming into therapy, they say, wow, it wasn't as bad as I thought it was. Mm-hmm. And so everyone that I've ever engaged, not saying that I'm 100% successful, but everyone that I've engaged over my years said that, oh man, it wasn't as bad as I thought. Mm-hmm. A lot of times people have a preconceived idea that, oh man, it's going to be a bunch of crazy people in there and they're not going to understand me and it's going to be really awkward. And people walk away saying, oh, it's not that bad. And so I tell everyone is, man, go out and find a therapist you can connect with and realize you've been missing out on something. Mm-hmm. Everyone participates in therapy at some point in time, whether you're venting to a spouse, a girlfriend, or homeboy, or whatever, you just don't call it therapy. You know, and a lot of times there are people that give a lot of great advice. And so if you have a friend that is working for you in that way, continue to pursue that. And so, again, getting help is not a bad thing. It's actually a great thing in the strength. And so we should all exercise that.
Thank you, Leroy. I appreciate you. I know how busy you are, so I appreciate you taking an hour out of your evening to be with me. You have a permanent place on the show if you ever want to come back and talk some more and give people your expertise. Again, you know, you're my mentor. I'm learning from you. The relationship is so copacetic. Like, you just made it so easy to want to work underneath of another Black therapist. As you know, I had a bad experience with the last one. I ain't gonna be triggered. I'm not gonna go into that, but you made it worth me even wanting to give it a second chance, and I'm grateful, and I thank you for that.
You're more than welcome.
I thank you for coming and talking to the people today. I hope you guys got something out of it. I won't hold you up anymore. I know you probably have a session after this, so I will see you in the office this week.
Definitely. And to everyone listening, have a great night, and please try to have fun on purpose. Have a great night.
Thanks, Leroy. Bye. There you have it, guys. Leroy Ambrose MS, Master of Science, and he has his LPC. He is licensed, and that is where your girl is trying to get. This is the person I'm getting my hours from. He makes me even more want to do therapy, especially being a Black therapist. He is absolutely amazing. Supervisions are awesome. Teaching is awesome. And so this is where I'm learning it from, people. So what I give to you is what I'm learning. I appreciate you guys for tuning in every Monday at 7. This is only the beginning. March, we're going to turn it up some more. I would love to have, more guests, but I would love to have you guys that are in the comments join me so we can have an open discussion. So if that is something you're interested in, please DM me. Because it's not just about the professionals. It's about all of our mental health. And so I want to know what you guys are going through, what you've been through, how you've overcome it, what works, what didn't work. And I just want to talk to you guys. Again, thank you for joining Melanated Vibrations. I love you guys. I'll see you next week. Bye.
Hey, good people. Welcome to Melanated Vibrations, a new show that celebrates the diversity and richness of Black culture. Join us as we delve into our individual mental health and overall mental health of our community. From the latest trends to the timeless coping mechanisms, we'll showcase the best of what it means to be mentally healthy. So sit back, relax,